It was a dry heat wave in Santa Fe in late July. Tamsin and I were sitting on the terrace of a cafe near the plaza. The metal table was hot, so I rested my elbows on a napkin. The ice in its water was melting noticeably fast. I looked at the people across the street, tourists with a map, two teenagers with skateboards, a woman in a straw hat trying to call someone and missing the screen. "You'll never guess who I saw at the farmer's market yesterday," Tamsin said, swirling a thin slice of lime in her glass. "I hate guessing games," I replied. "Speak normally." "Silas Merritt, your ex." I was silent for a few seconds. I wondered how that name sounded out loud after 12 years. I didn't have a flash or anything. It was just a fact. Silas was in town. "Is he back?" I asked. "A month ago," she nodded. "He opened a branch of his company on Canyon Road. He lives in his parents' house on Avenida de los Campas. I also heard that he has 2 children, a girl of about 11 and a younger boy." "Is he married?" "They say he's divorced. Co-parent. He looks calm, mature." I took a sip of coffee. The bitterness was welcome. My head was in a familiar order: where I lived, where I worked, which streets I traveled. Over the years, I had built a simple system to avoid running into people from the past. Santa Fe is small, but it gives you space when you ask for it. I moved here a year after my divorce. Back then, I needed a new job and a clear routine. Now I'm the director of the city's central library. First year on the job. Budget, purchases, shift schedules, elevator repairs, email complaints, weekly reports to City Hall. It takes a lot of energy and helps you not dig up old stories. "Are you okay?" Tamsin asked. She'd known me since grad school in Austin. We'd been library students, roomed together during our internships, shared a toaster and an old microwave. She'd seen me at my best and at my worst. "I'm fine," I said. "I just didn't think I'd hear about him here." "Do you want to change the topic?" "Go ahead. How are you doing with your grant application?" Tamsin was talking about a project to digitize family photo archives. I listened, asked questions about deadlines and reporting. She about my budget, I about her partners from the museum. The conversation brought us back on track. But the news had already settled in my head like a thick layer. I didn't make decisions or plans. I simply noted, he's nearby. He has children. He works in the city. After the cafe, I headed back to the library. We occupied a large building in the center. The lobby smelled of paper and air conditioning. At the front desk, people were discussing new library cards. In the children's section, a volunteer was laying out kits for the summer program. I went up to my room on the second floor. My office overlooked the street. I could see a parking lot, a tree with sparse shade, a stall selling tourist bracelets. There were folders with contracts on the table. We were just closing the quarter and preparing to purchase laptops for the computer lab. I prioritized the tasks. First letters to suppliers, then a plan for the week, then a sheet of ideas for updating the space for teenagers. Finally, agreeing on the menu for Night on the Rug. This is our tradition. The children come in their pajamas, we read aloud, build tents from sheets, and hand out cocoa. This year, we wanted to add a small club about the night sky of New Mexico. I asked a volunteer with a telescope to come and give a short demonstration. At 5 o'clock in the evening, Eliza, the administrator, came to see me. She handed me a list of overdue payments and said that teenagers were making noise in the reading room. We went down together. We talked to the kids calmly, without lectures, and they went to their tables. On weekdays, I try to be in the room myself so that people see the director not only on the sign by the door. This helps when the city is discussing the budget. There is always someone who says, "The director is here herself. She knows how our room works." At 7 o'clock, I closed my laptop. The name popped into my head again. I found myself mentally making adjustments to my routes, where not to walk, where not to park, what hours to avoid the Plaza Cafe. It seemed ridiculous, but it had worked for years. The house was quiet. A one-bedroom apartment next to the Santa Fe River, a small kitchen, and bookshelves I'd rearranged dozens of times. I put the kettle on and pulled out my notebook. It was where I kept my lists, shopping, work tasks, event ideas, notes for the city council. On a separate page were personal to DOS, call my parents in Boulder, take my dress to the dry cleaners, buy a new rug for the kitchen. I wrote down another item, don't make quick decisions. It seemed ridiculous, but it was good to see the words on paper. Tamsin called late in the evening. I mentioned that name and dumped you in the middle of the day, she said. I'm checking on you. Thank you. I'm fine. Are you angry? No, I'm just tired of having to think about the old things again. Do you want me to be in touch if you run into him? Come if necessary? No need, I said. If that happens, I can handle it. Okay? And one more thing. If I happen to come across information you don't want to know, I'll keep quiet. Tell me how you feel comfortable. I feel comfortable when we live quietly, without investigations. If he is in the city, he is in the city. I don't want to build a structure around it. Agreed, said Tamsin. And speaking of night on the rug, I can bring a couple of thermoses of cocoa. You always have problems with your boiler. Yes, I will be grateful. We quickly moved on to mundane matters. Who would pick up boxes from the store? Who would reserve folding mats for the little ones? The conversation brought me back to the practical track. I couldn't sleep for a long time that night. There was no panic. There was a strange feeling, like before an important meeting, when you understand that you will meet a person from a previous project. He will look different, you will look different, but part of you reacts the same way as then. I reminded myself, I am 42. I have a responsible job. I have friends, habits, plans. I don't have to explain to anyone my decisions from 12 years ago, but I know that I did badly then. This remains a fact that I live with. In the morning, I woke up early and went for a run along the embankment. The path was empty. I kept a steady pace, watched my breathing. On my way back, I noticed a boy with a dog at the neighboring house. He was trying to put a harness on her, but she kept sitting down. I helped. He thanked me, said the dog's name was Lula. Such little things remind me that the city has its own rhythm, which does not depend on my stories. The day started with a meeting at the library. We discussed a new system for booking rooms. A young employee suggested a test period with a reader survey. I supported it and added a point about accessibility for elderly users. Then an inspector from the city property department came. He checked the fire alarm and noted that the batteries in several sensors needed to be changed. I wrote it down. At noon, I walked the halls. In the children's section, there was a stack of space books on a shelf, the same ones we'd chosen for night on the rug. In a nearby display case were dinosaurs. Volunteer Jake, a student, was attaching paper cacti to a garland. He asked where the I read in the summer sticker table would be best. We moved it closer to the entrance. After lunch, I returned to the office. There was a letter from the city accounting department in the mail with clarification on the purchase deadline. I answered briefly and clearly. Then I picked up my phone and opened the list of contacts. The name Silas had long been missing. I was not going to look for it. I had no desire to open old correspondence or turn on surveillance mode. I had everything I needed: work, friends, simple plans for the evening. At 5, I looked at the schedule. In 3 days, night on the mat. I made a note to myself, check the projector, print out the list of participants, ask security at one shift at the entrance. Such trifles create a sense of control. On the way out of the office, I stopped at the glass wall behind which there are catalogs. The children's counter was visible, empty, calm. At home, I made a simple dinner: chicken breast, salad, toast. I put on some music. I texted my parents that I was fine and that I would spend the weekend thinking about how to organize my vacation in October. They sent me a photo of their yard in Boulder. I responded with a smiley face and a heart. Before going to bed, I wrote another short list. Tomorrow paper shopping, call carpet contractor, write to City Hall, check thermoses. At the top, don't run from the streets, but don't seek out meetings either. I wanted to stick to a simple rule: follow my own route, not changing my life for possible confrontations. It seemed honest to myself. As I turned off the light, my phone briefly flashed a weather alert for tomorrow. I put it face down. The thought was, the past sometimes comes back. It's not a disaster. It's a fact. I fell asleep. On Saturday morning, the library opened earlier than usual. We had arranged with volunteers to put out kits for the summer program, and I decided to stand at the front desk because one of the employees was sick. There were a lot of people, tourists with hotel cards, parents with children, local pensioners who come every week for newspapers and audiobooks. At the entrance, there was a schedule for the week: computer class, board game club meeting, night on the rug on Thursday. By 10, people had moved closer to the children's section. Our new rugs still smelled of plastic. Jake was putting up a poster about the constellations of New Mexico on the wall. I was helping a mom with twins get her family card and explaining how the renewal machine worked. Then I saw 3 people at the display case with new releases: a man, a girl, and a boy. I noticed the girl first, holding a book about space tightly in her hands. The boy was twirling a thin brochure with dinosaurs in his fingers and whispering the titles out loud, checking that he hadn't mixed them up. The man was looking around the shelves as if trying to remember how everything was arranged. I knew who it was before he turned around. My heart didn't speed up, it just became clear it happened. I left the counter and walked towards the children's department. In such cases, a working script helps. Offer help, do not impose, keep your distance. Jake looked at me questioningly. I nodded that everything was fine. Need help with the search? I asked, already nearby. The man turned around. For a couple of seconds, he seemed to be choosing his words. Then he said, "Ria, hello." "Hello," I said calmly. "Welcome to the children's department." The girl looked at me with serious eyes. "Can I borrow 2 books from you for the night if I'm 10? She asked in a businesslike tone. "You can," I answered, "if you have your own card or are included in the family card. What is your name?" "Marlo," she said. The boy butted in. "And I'm Kai. I found a tyranner. Well, I'm still practicing speaking." "Tyrannosaurus," I suggested. "Cool book. We also have a series about herbivores. There are good pictures of skeletons there." Silas, I still called him by his first name in my head, stood a little to the side, holding a stack of thin editions that the boy had already managed to collect. He was wearing a linen shirt and jeans. His hair was shorter than before. The freckles remained. "We just got back to town," he said, choosing a neutral tone. "The kids are still looking around. I wanted to get a card for everyone." "The receptionist at the front desk will help," I replied. "You need an ID and address. For children, your date of birth. If it's more convenient for you, you can start now and I'll enter it into the system later." "Let's do it this way," he said. "We also want to sign up for the reading evening." I saw the announcement. "Night on the mat," I nodded. "Thursday. Pre-registration is required to ensure there are enough seats and cocoa. Right now is fine. Name, age, allergies if any, and the phone number of one of the parents." Marlo nodded very seriously, as if this was an important contract. "I'm not allergic," she said, "and I want to bring my flashlight. May I?" "Yes, we can. Just don't shine the light in the other children's eyes." Kai picked up a brochure with dinosaurs. "Can I have this one and another one about sharks?" he asked. "Yes, you can," I replied. "Your limit is 8 pieces, but let's start with 2. It'll be easier to return them on time." Marlo turned to her father. "Dad, will you take something for yourself?" "I'll take it," he said, looking at the shelf of graphic novels. "But first, the design." I pulled out the forms and put a pen on the table. He filled in the names and dates of birth. His hand shook slightly as he wrote my city, Santa Fe, on the address line. I pretended not to notice. "Is email a must?" he asked. "No, but it's convenient for reminders. We don't send ads, only notifications about deadlines." "Then I'll write it down," he said, and wrote the address. While he was filling in the lines, Marlo walked over to the space display case. She ran her finger along the spines and asked if we had astrophotography for beginners. I pointed to the shelf where the hobby books were. This one will do, she said, checking the contents. There's a section on finding the Milky Way. I saw a photo online of it visible from New Mexico. We had a volunteer come by with a telescope, I replied. On Thursday, he'll show us where to look for the main objects in the sky. We'll have a spot outside in the parking lot if the sky is clear. Cool, she said shortly. Kai was simpler. Did you know that Carcharodontosaurus had big teeth? He gave out the important information. Almost like a shark, only a dinosaur. I know, and we also have a poster with a comparison of teeth. You can take a look. He happily ran towards the poster. When the forms were filled out, I took them and said, "That's it, we'll process it within a day. You can take the books now, and you can pick up the cards on your next visit. Just keep the receipt so you know the deadlines." "Thank you," he said. A pause, and, "Good to see you. Didn't expect to meet you in the children's department." "I come here often," I answered. "Work requires it." "Congratulations on your position," he said. "I've heard from friends that you have a lot of new programs." "We try," I said. "The city asks for reports, we show the numbers. The children come, that's better than any report." Marlowe returned with a book on astrophotography. Kai with a poster in his hands, but we don't give out posters. He was a little upset, so I suggested taking a picture with my phone. "I'll take a picture and send it to you," Silas told his son, "or we'll print it out at home." "Do we have a printer at home?" Kai asked. "There is one in the office." "Not at home yet," answered the father. "We just moved." "We're staying with my grandparents for now," Marlowe said. "But we'll be getting a house closer to school soon. Dad said we won't buy quickly to see the neighborhoods." "That makes sense," I said. "The city is diverse. It's better to figure out school schedules and buses in advance." "I know," he said. "I opened a small office on Canyon Road. I'm still sorting out contractors and clients." I nodded, but left the details of the work unanswered. In the library, I feel more comfortable holding the frame. Here I am an employee, he is a reader. That is enough. A mother with a toddler in a stroller came up to the counter and asked where she could find books on potty training. I showed them the shelf and excused myself for a second. When I returned, the kids were already standing at the self-service machine. Jake was helping them scan barcodes. "Everything worked out," he said. "The check's printed." "Thank you," I said to Jake. Silas looked at me a little confused. It felt like he had words to say, but he wasn't sure if they were appropriate. "We'll come on Thursday," he said, "if there are still places." "Yes, just come on time. Doors at 7, lights out at 8:30. Pajamas are optional, but the kids like it." Kai perked up. "Can I come in dinosaur pajamas?" "Sure," I said. "Just bring some warm socks. We have air conditioning, and the floor can get chilly." Marlowe asked, "Can we bring cookies for everyone?" "Parents bring cookies," I answered, "but we have a limit on nuts. I'd rather write you a list of what's allowed, and you decide." "We have a deal," she said. They moved towards the exit of the department. For a second, I remained next to Silas. "I know this isn't the place for long conversations," he said quietly. "I won't keep you. I just wanted to say, if it's ever convenient, I'd like to talk. No pressure. About how we live now, not about old scenes." "We talked to readers about books and children's programs at the library," I said evenly. "See you on Thursday." He nodded. It wasn't a refusal, and it wasn't an agreement. It was the rule for today. They left. Jake came up to me with a box of stickers. "Was it the one?" he whispered. All he knew was that I had an ex who used to live in Colorado. I didn't tell anyone the details. "Yes," I replied. "And that's all. Let's get back to the lists." We hung stickers on the tables, checked the cocoa and paper cups. Eliza sent a message that the cards for the Merritt family were ready to be picked up. I noted it in the system. After lunch, I went into the utility room. I made myself some tea in a mug with the city logo. I sat down for a minute to return my breathing to normal. There was no trembling, no feeling that I had fallen into the past. There was simple fatigue after the morning flow of people and a short trace of the meeting. At 3 o'clock, I had a short talk with the volunteers about Thursday's scenario: who greets at the door, who pours cocoa, who oversees the cleaning at the end. We discussed safety issues, exits, a list of emergency contacts. Then I went to the computer room there. The technician was checking updates. He said that 2 laptops were slow. I agreed to replace the hard drives. In the evening, parents with little ones came to family readings. I read a book about a raccoon who loses his hat and then finds it in the laundry. The children laughed. I caught myself sounding even. The tension from the morning meeting was gone from the room. After closing, Gilbert, the security guard, and I walked through the halls. He checked the doors and windows. I took down any posters that might have fallen off the air conditioner. There was a copy of the registration form on the table by the counter. I put it in the events folder. At home, I took the rest of the pasta out of the fridge and ate it standing in the kitchen because I didn't have the energy to set the table. I opened my laptop, wrote a quick report on the day, and added the line, "Merit, family booked in for Thursday." This is a work entry. No personal comments. Tamsin texted, "How was Saturday?" I replied, "Fine. Lots of people. Will be a full house on Thursday." She gave me a thumbs up. Before going to bed, I looked at the plan for the next week once more. There was a lot of work, and that suited me. On the shelf next to the bed lay a thin book of essays about the work of city services. I read a few pages and fell asleep quickly, without much thought. There was no need to rush decisions about the future. By Thursday, the plan was in place. I walked through the building with Gilbert that morning. We checked the emergency exits, spare torches, and participant lists. Eliza printed out volunteer badges. Jake hung up signs with the zones: read aloud, sheet tents, cocoa and water, outdoor telescope. In the utility room were the 3 thermoses Tamsin had brought. Each had a sticker with the ingredients. I noted the absence of nuts. On the table by the entrance were parental consent forms. We added a clause about not publishing photos if the family objects. At 6:45, the lobby was already crowded. Children arrived in pajamas, dinosaurs, stars, superheroes. Parents took off their shoes at the mats. Someone brought blankets. I met the families at the entrance, checked the list. Marlo and Kai were among the first to arrive. Marlo was wearing pajamas with little planets. Kai had a book with dinosaurs under his arm, although they hadn't planned on taking it. Silas carried a bag with bottles of water. "We'll be early," he said. "Better this way than to be late." "Welcome," I replied. "There are stickers with names on the table. Consent forms for parents. If you want to help later, you can check the box." Marlo sat on the edge of the rug closest to the stage. Kai went straight to the mock tent. Jake showed him how to throw the sheet over it so it wouldn't fall over. Silas set the water down next to the thermoses. "Do you need anything else?" he asked. "So far, so good," I said. "If you like, you can keep an eye on the table with the cups when the reading begins." He nodded. It was a calm, clear task. At 7 sharp, I came out to the group. I asked them to put away their phones with flashes, warned them about the exits. I told them that first we would read, then build tents, then cocoa. At the end, there would be a short demonstration of the telescope in the parking lot, if the sky wasn't covered by clouds. We started with a book about a girl looking for owls in a winter park. The text was simple, but not primitive. The children raised their hands to ask questions. I read slowly, giving them time to look at the pictures. In the middle, one boy started crying he had to give his older pillow to someone else. Mom took him to a table with water, and a minute later he returned. I continued. Marlo listened attentively. She didn't interrupt, but she responded to details, turning her head when the text mentioned the names of birds. Kai whispered the captions in the book, even though they were in English. His whisper didn't interfere. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Silas pouring out the cocoa, checking the lids to make sure there were no spills. After reading, I said, Those who want to build a tent go to the tables. Those who want to approach the telescope earlier wait at the exit until the volunteer brings out the tripod. The crowd was breaking up. Jake and two other teenage volunteers were helping to pull up sheets. Parents were taking pictures of their children, but not getting too close. The sticker stand was busy, but not crowded. I was handing out 2 cookies per hand to those who asked. We had a limited supply. After 30 minutes of hard building, the usual fatigue set in, and the cocoa came in handy. "Ria, is it possible to make 2 rooms in the tent?" Marlo asked. "You can," I said. "Put 2 chairs in the center, add a second sheet, and you'll have a partition." "Kai, we'll share a wall," she told her brother. "But you're not taking all the clothespins." "I'll only take 3, he replied, holding up 3 with his fingers. "The rest are yours." I smiled. Silas was standing next to the thermoses. He looked my way. It wasn't an insistent look. He was simply noting that I was in the room and waiting for a sign if he needed help. "Thermos number 2 is empty," he said quietly. "There's some in the back room," I replied. "Jake knows where it is. Ask him." He nodded and called Jake. They quickly replaced the thermos. The line for cocoa formed, but it moved without delay. I heard a couple of thanks from parents. That's always nice. By 8 o'clock, the flashlights in the tents were turned off. We dimmed the lights. I turned on a short video about light pollution in cities and why it's important to leave areas for observing the sky. The video lasted 5 minutes. Then the children went out to the parking lot. A volunteer set up a telescope. The sky was clear. Bright objects were visible. He showed several dots. The children clearly repeated the names. Parents held them by the shoulders so they wouldn't push. "Is this the Milky Way?" Marlo asked. "Not today," the volunteer said, "but you can see a few objects. Come to the next observation night. We'll post a schedule." How to choose a sleeve. "Dad, I can't see. My cap is in the way." "Take it off," said the father, and took the cap into his pocket. The demonstration lasted 20 minutes. We went back inside. The parents started collecting blankets. The children handed in their flashlights. I thanked everyone and reminded them about the return of books and about Tuesday as a day of silence in the reading room. 8:30. Time was going according to plan. The room grew quieter as the families left. It was just us and a few volunteers. It smelled of cocoa and paper. I put the books back on the shelves. Jake took down the fairy lights. Gilbert collected the trash bags. Tamsin washed measuring jugs at the sink. She caught my eye and gave me a thumbs up. I knew she'd seen who was here today. Silas and the kids were late. Kai didn't want to leave, asking for another try under the telescope. Marlo was gathering the sheet and folding it neatly. I gave her an elastic band to tie it. "Thank you," she said. "It's easier to carry." "You worked carefully today," I replied. "It shows." She nodded. Kai ran over to get the dinosaur book he had left on the table. "We're going," Silas said. "I wanted to say thanks for the evening. The kids are happy." "I'm glad you liked it," I said. He looked towards the door where Gilbert was waiting. "If possible, I would like to stay for a couple of minutes when you finish with the jugs. Only if it is convenient for you." "Wait at the entrance," I said. "I'll be free in 5 minutes." He nodded and led the children outside. Tamsin and I finished the dishes, wiped down the tables, and collected the remaining cookies in a container. I thanked the volunteers and marked them down on the hours list. Gilbert closed the back door. Then I headed to the front. Silas was standing on the porch. The kids were sitting on the steps, discussing who had spent the most time looking through the telescope. He told them to go to the car. It was parked nearby. He turned to me. "I understand that your workday is over and you don't have to talk to me," he began calmly. "I wanted to ask about a meeting. Coffee. 15 minutes. Any time and place convenient for you. Not to drag up old accusations. I won't make excuses and I won't demand anything. I'd like to say a few things that are important to say to you, not to an empty space, and to find out how you're living. If it's inappropriate, I'll leave and not return to the conversation." I was silent for a moment. Behind him, the children argued about clothespins. I heard Tamsin closing the utility room. In the past, I would have had the habit of walking away to avoid making a decision. This was different. A meeting is not a step back. It is a concrete conversation in an open place. Okay, I said. Let's do it without formulas like all over again, and without trying to sum things up in one conversation. Just facts and plans, without details that we'd better not discuss. The place is the Plaza Cafe. During the day, I don't meet alone in the evening unless necessary. The time is Sunday at 10. 15 minutes is not enough, but it's enough to understand whether there's any point in continuing. That's fine, he said. I'll take care of the reservations if they need an appointment now. No need. On Sundays, we'll have time to grab a table by the window if we come at opening. He nodded. I'm not sure how to properly end this conversation, he said. Thanks for the chance. It's not a chance, I said. It's a meeting. Different things. That's right, he replied. Then until Sunday. The children ran up. Dad, can we each take a cactus sticker home? Kai asked. We can have one each, he said. Say thank you. Thank you, Miss Harris, they said in unison. I didn't correct the title. To them, I'm a librarian. They left. I returned to the hall. Tamsin was closing the equipment cabinet. You heard everything, I said. Enough to understand the mood, she replied. Are you sure? I am sure that I want to put the conversation in a clear frame. The question of why is for Sunday. I could sit at the next table and pretend to read the paper, Tamsin suggested, her voice neutral. No need. It will be weird. If something goes wrong, I can end the conversation myself. Then I'll just stay in touch, she said. Text me when you're done. We turned off the lights. Gilbert locked the front door with the alarm. It was getting cooler outside. I walked to the car, sat down, took a few breaths. No drama, just a decision confirmed out loud. At home, I wrote in my notebook, Sunday, 10 o'clock, Plaza Cafe. On a separate line, topics, boundaries, what's next, no promises, kids, work, no secrets. This wasn't a plan for making peace. It was a list for an adult conversation. On Saturday, I left a note for the staff. What needed to be purchased, what needed to be put away, what requests had come from parents. Letters from several families were already in the mail, thanking, asking about the next meeting and about the telescope. I responded to everyone, set a reminder to update the calendar on the website. Mom called in the evening. She asked how the night project went. She praised me for focusing on the children. I didn't tell him about Silas. It wouldn't do any good to the parents. If the conversation with him turns out to be important, I'll tell him later. I arrived 10 minutes early. On Sundays, the Plaza Cafe opens at 9, and by 10 it's already noisy, but you can get a table by the window. I got a black coffee and a glass of water. I put my phone face down. We had agreed on 15 minutes. I decided to stick to that rule. Silas walked in without delay. Jacket over his arm, shirt loose, hair slightly damp. He saw me immediately, nodded, and stopped at the counter to order. He returned with coffee without sugar. Hello, he said. Thank you for coming. Hello, sit down. We sat in silence for a moment. Dishes rattled around us. A waitress served someone an omelet, and at the next table there was an argument about parking at the plaza. Everything was as usual. It helped. I'll be honest, he began. I didn't come to ask you to go back to the past. And I didn't come to figure out who owes what to whom. I wanted to say a few things and hear a few things from you, if you're ready. Agreed, I said, also without long introductions. Begin. He cupped the mug in his hands, but did not drink. 12 years ago, I was there physically, but I wasn't there in person, he said quietly. Losing my job threw me off track. I closed myself off. I looked at myself, at my own failure, not at us. I didn't cheat, but I disappeared from the relationship. I was angry at the situation, at the world, at you. It made me feel better. I told myself a story in which I was the victim. It was convenient. I look at it differently now. I don't make excuses. I just acknowledge the facts. I nodded. Nothing inside me clicked. No relief, no new anger. It was smooth. Mine, I said, is this. I cheated on you. It was my responsibility. There was no tragedy at that moment, except the one I created myself. I thought for a long time why it happened. I was tired, angry, wanted to be noticed, and I chose the worst way. It can't be written off. I live with it. He exhaled. Thank you for saying that out loud, he said. I only heard it in my head. We were silent again. The waitress came over and offered us a menu. We declined. We really didn't need anything except coffee. What do you have now? I asked. You said you just opened an office. A small team, he replied. 2 full-timers, 1 part-timer, a couple of independent consultants. We take on private housing projects and a couple of public spaces. I'm not deliberately ramping up the business. I don't want to go back to work and not see anything around me. Children, their schedules, co-parenting. That's more important. How do you divide your time? I asked. The question was practical. Every other week, plus flexibility, he said. We live close to the school. I have a normal working relationship with the kid's mother. We're not friends, but we respect the rules. I try to be predictable. That's important to them. I see, I said. He looked up. I know there are plenty of people in town who remember our story in general terms, he said. I don't want the kids to hear from strangers what concerns the two of us. If we ever have plans together, I'd like to talk to them myself, calmly and in an age-appropriate way. I'm not in a hurry. I'm just saying it now. That makes sense, I said. And it fits with how I see the situation. I have my side of the city, my job. I don't want to hide, and I don't want to play secrets. But I'm not going to bring adult conversations into a children's circle. He nodded. I'll add one more thing, he said. I haven't had a drink in 5 years. It's not a topic for discussion now, just a fact that affects my life. I don't go to bars, I don't make late-night appointments. If we're ever going to continue, it's important to me that this is taken into account. Thank you for telling me, I replied. I have no problem with that. I'm not a fan of alcohol. It's easier for me to meet in the morning or afternoon. He smiled at the corner of his mouth, quickly, without trying to lighten the mood. Tell me about the library, he said. I heard you were recently appointed. I briefly described the year, the budget, the elevator repair, the new hall booking system, clubs for teenagers, cooperation with the museum. He listened attentively. He did not interject advice, did not pretend that he understood everything better. It was noticeable and pleasant. I remember you being very focused when it came to work, he said. It was a help then, and sometimes a hindrance. Now it seems to have become your support. This is my zone, where the rules are clear, I said. There are metrics, deadlines, reports, and there are real people who come every day. It doesn't turn life into a scheme, but it helps you stay on course. He nodded. You've already asked about me, he said. I'll ask. Are you alone? If the question is unnecessary, tell me, and I'll remove it. I'm alone, I answered. I tried a couple of times. It didn't work out. Not because I held the window open in your direction. It just happened that way. A lot of work, a lot of caution. I understand, he said. I had a relationship after the divorce. 2 years, a good person, but we are different in pace and views on upbringing. We broke up without a war. Now she has her own life. I don't ask for names, I said. I don't need them. We finished our coffee. I looked at my watch. 14 minutes had passed. Just a minute, I said. Let's talk about boundaries. If we decide to continue communicating, there are a few things that are important to me. First, no rush. No daily meetings, no pressure. Second, speak openly if something doesn't fit. Don't disappear and don't pretend that everything is okay. Third, no detailed discussions of the past. It doesn't make sense. We can name cause and effect relationships, but not spin out scene after scene. Fourth, respect for the children and their mother. No teasing, no other people's secrets. Fifth, if something starts to look like secrecy, I stop it. He listened without interrupting. I agree, he said. For my part, I'll add one thing. I want to be clear. If my schedule changes, I warn you. If I'm not ready for a certain topic, I don't leave, I talk about it. And also, I need a calm rhythm. Without drama, life itself brings enough. It matches, I said. We fell silent again. 15 minutes were up. I motioned for the waitress to pay. It's on me, he said. No, I said. Today, everyone pays for themselves. It's easier. We paid the checks. I stood up. That's all for today, I said. If you want, we can meet in a week in the morning, also for coffee. No expectations. Just to check if we feel comfortable together. I want to, he said, at the same time. 9:30, I said. On Sundays, I have a little more of a window. Fits. We went outside. Street musicians were playing in the plaza. People were taking pictures of the fountains. I didn't look around. I kept my step steady. I'll walk to the car, he said. The kids are here until this evening. We promised to put up a shelf in their room. Have a nice day, I said. And you too. He walked toward the parking lot. I stayed at the entrance and took out my phone. I texted Tamsin. Everything is calm. We agreed to meet in a week. No rush. She replied, okay, I'm ready to listen if you want. I put the phone away. At home, I opened my laptop and wrote 2 lines in a personal file. The meeting went without conflicts. Agreement, calm pace, honest messages, no secrets from the children, but without interfering in their relationship with their mother. This was not necessary for the report, but so as not to change the meaning retroactively. The day passed at the usual Sunday pace. I went to the supermarket, bought groceries for the week, went to the hardware store, took boxes for the archive, called my parents. We talked about the garden, the weather, about how they were planning to come in November. I didn't mention morning coffee, not because I was secretive. There was simply no reason. In the evening, I went through my mail. Among the letters were gratitude letters from parents for the night on the mat. One dad sent a photo of a tent and asked if it would be possible to hold the same evening on the school playground. I replied that we could discuss the format and safety. I read 2 project reports and wrote short comments. I turned off the laptop. Before going to bed, I sat down with a notepad. I wrote down for the next week, Sunday 9:30 coffee. Separately, check how I feel during the week, sleep, concentration, irritation. This is not control for the sake of control. It is a way not to fly past your own reactions. Monday morning, I arrived at the library as usual. The team was already there. Eliza was excited about getting some of the budget for laptops. Jake was telling me about his brother getting into college. I was smiling and taking notes. Life was going on. The conversations at the Plaza Cafe weren't the main event. That was important. A day later, Marlo came to the library alone. Silas had apparently taken her and gone on business. She asked if she could help label the new arrivals. I gave her a simple job and explained where to look for the numbers. She did it neatly. Then she asked, "Are you friends with my dad?" "We've known each other for a long time," I said. "Sometimes we drink coffee together. If it bothers you, you can ask him." "I already asked," she said. "He said everything was fine. I wanted to hear the same from you." "Everything is calm," I confirmed. "You can always ask me questions if you don't want to find out something through guesswork." She nodded. She pulled her hair back into a ponytail, finished writing the last issues, and handed me back the marker. She left as quietly as she had come. An hour later, Kai came in with a drawing of a dinosaur for the Our Readers Draw stand. We hung it up. The week after Plaza Cafe passed without a hitch. We texted briefly, "Have a nice planning meeting. How was the delivery? Coffee Thursday morning." I suggested a rule. No texts after 9 o'clock and no long chains. He agreed. Keeping his distance was easy. On Thursday, we met at Rail Yard Park. We walked around the path twice, were silent, then talked about business. He took on a project for a small community center in the south of the city. Simple layout, clear deadlines. I told him about the teen council at the library. He asked if it was scary to give social media to teenagers. I said it was practical. Let them do it with adults and according to the rules. The next day I went to Tune Up Cafe for a salad. He was standing by the wall with a stone catalog. We nodded to each other. He said that the client was hesitating between two light porcelain tiles. I replied that it was the same with books in the library. I give three options and ask him to take the one that his hand reaches for. He grinned, took the order. We went outside and parted without seeing him off. Tamsin came in the evening. We ate soup and discussed my report to the mayor's office the following week. She adjusted the wording about attendance and the board game club. About Silas, she asked briefly. "How are you?" I said. "Take it easy. No quick moves." She replied, "And keep your schedule a priority. Work first, dates later." On Sunday, we met again at the Plaza Cafe. I had oatmeal, he had an omelet. 30 minutes flew by on mundane topics. He had to select a team and check estimates. I had a broken scanner and a replacement on request. In the end, he proposed a plan. 2 short meetings a week with no obligations and no hard feelings if they were canceled. I agreed. The school sent a letter about the open house evening. The library always sets up a table in the hallway, so I went with a volunteer and left before the parents' meeting. Marlowe came over to say hello, told them about the science project they were doing. Silas was talking to the teacher in the next room. They nodded through the door, and that was it. No talking in plain sight. On Wednesday, we had a carpet installation job in the teen lounge fall through. The contractor was late. The furniture had already been rolled out, and I had a town hall talk in an hour. Jake and I were moving shelving by hand. Silas sent a short message, "Good luck at the meeting." I responded with an equally short, "Thank you." The talk went well. We got approval for 5 laptops and an agreement on ventilation in the teen area. On Friday, he called, "There's a small opening at the gallery on Canyon Road today. No fanfare. Will you come in for 20 minutes? I considered the idea. The gallery was his territory, but the format was short. I agreed on the condition that there would be no introductions as someone special, just the director of the library. He said, "Sure." I showed up at 7, got some water, looked at the watercolors, exchanged a few words with the administrator about urban spaces, and left at 7:20. He came out with me. "Is everything okay?" he asked. "Yes. Next time, better a place with fewer acquaintances," I said. He flew. The next day, we met at a diner on Circle Drive. I got a green chili without cheese, he got a burrito. We discussed boundaries. I said I didn't want to spend the night together and wasn't ready to invite anyone over. He said, "No problem. It's not urgent or necessary." There was no pressure in his tone. On Sunday morning, we went to the hardware store. He needed a shelf for Marlowe, I needed boxes for the archive. At the checkout, a neighbor from his neighborhood stopped us. "Were you the ones making noise yesterday?" He calmly explained that the children had been skating until 8, and the time had been observed. No excuses or unnecessary words. On Monday, a pipe burst in the library utility room. The boxes of supplies got wet. I called the city plumbers, but we had to wait. Jake and I were moving everything when a text came in. "I'm nearby. There's an industrial fan in the car. Should I bring it?" I wrote, "Leave it by the back door. Thanks." He brought it and left. We saved some stickers and brochures. I returned the fan that evening. He said, "I understand why I didn't invite you inside. Respecting the rules is the right thing to do." I nodded. A couple of days later, I ran into his ex-wife by chance in the school parking lot. We didn't know each other. She recognized me from the library. "Are you Miss Harris? Thank you for your programs. The kids are happy." I replied, "I'm glad it's useful for them." We parted ways on that note. No hidden hints or personal conversations. Silas and I have another rule. Every week an hour, without a plan. If the week is difficult, cancel it without offense. The first such without a plan, was held in a record store. He leafed through jazz soundtracks. We talked with the seller about local concerts, didn't buy anything, but the hour passed calmly. I took the same approach with the kids. To them, I was Miss Harris from the library. No titles, no adult discussions. Sometimes Marlowe would come in to help with labels. She did it carefully, asked direct questions. Once she asked, "Are you friends with my dad?" "We've known each other for a long time and sometimes drink coffee," I replied. "Everything's calm." "That's what he said." She nodded and returned to the labels. Kai brought a drawing of a dinosaur for the Our Readers Draw stand. We hung it next to the second grader's work. He was proud. I complimented the T-Rex on its teeth. He laughed and said he had been practicing. At home, I followed a routine: sleep, jogging, eating, working. I didn't feel like checking my phone every 5 minutes in the evening. We both kept our agreements. No messages after 9. No discussions of past details. If someone was late for a meeting, they wrote in advance. On Monday morning, I got a letter from Marlowe. Short and to the point. Could I help out at the library this week? She was free after school on Tuesday and Thursday. I replied that minors needed a parental consent form to volunteer. I enclosed a form with clauses about hours, prohibition on working with chemicals, and about photos. I copied both parents. Silas responded quickly, "Okay on my part. We'll check with their mom." An hour later, I got a letter from her. She agreed on 2 conditions: no photos and leaving at 5 p.m. I thanked her and added it to the schedule. On Tuesday after school, Marlowe and Kai came together. Their volunteer badges were already lying at the counter. I gave a short briefing: where the cabinet with consumables was, how to wash your hands before sorting, what you can do without an employee and what you can't. I formulated the main rule: at work, I am Miss Harris, not Rhea. This sounded clear to the guys. "What do we do first?" Marlowe asked. "Labels for new arrivals," I said. "Look at the code, match it with the catalog card, and it's ready on the shelf." She gave Kai something else: to sort children's comics by series and tidy up the shelf with dinosaurs. "Can we put the tyrannosaurs higher?" he asked. "It's possible if the series is entirely on one level, and make sure the books are facing outward." He nodded seriously, took the cart, and drove to the shelf. We worked for an hour. Marlowe carefully pasted the labels, checking the numbers twice. When she was done, she asked if she could sign a couple of the cards recommended. I showed her where the cards were and explained that she had to write in the first person and briefly. She chose a book about astrophotography. Clear instructions. For beginners, Marlowe, age 10. The card was accurate. We spent the break in the courtyard. I got out water and apples. Marlowe sat up straight, not slouched like she did at rehearsal at the music school. We were silent. Then she said, "At school, they say that Dad is dating the director of the library. I don't like that they say director, as if it's about power. But I don't know how to answer." "You can say that this is a personal matter for adults," I answered, "and that questions about this are not for the hallway. If you want, you can say that we've known each other for a long time and that everything is calm." "That's what I told my friend." She nodded. "She accepted it. I don't have to explain it to the others." "You don't owe anyone anything," I said. "If you want to discuss something at home, it's better to talk to Mom and Dad. They're responsible for the decisions. I won't discuss adult topics with you." "I understand," she said briefly. Kai returned with an empty bottle. "I've finished the dinosaurs," he reported. "Can I make a new sign?" "Okay," I said. "Just check the spelling. If you're not sure, ask Jake." After the break, we switched to STEM Saturday kits: bags of parts, a short instruction, a sticker with the age. It's monotonous, but the kids can handle it if you give them clear steps. At 4:55 p.m., I said it was time to wrap up. We turned in our badges and logged our volunteer hours. At 5 p.m., Silas picked them up in the parking lot. I gave him a quick report: labels, shelves tidy, kits ready. He thanked me and asked if we could do it again on Thursday. I said yes, if their mom was okay with it. He nodded. I'll give it to you. On Wednesday, a group from their school came to our place for a tour. I gave a short program, how to find a book in the catalog, where the reference books are, what holds are. Marlowe was neutral in the group, did not come forward. Kai raised his hand and asked if he could write, "My favorite dinosaur is an Allosaurus," on the stand. I answered that the stand was for readers, not for tours, and suggested that we come after school. He accepted this without offense. At the school open house, a classmate's mother came up to me in the hallway and asked if it was true that the library director is now with Marlowe's father. I kept a neutral line. I don't discuss readers' personal lives. If you have questions about the programs, I'll tell you. She was embarrassed and changed the subject to the book fair. Marlowe was standing a few steps away and saw this scene. Later, already in the library, she said, "Thank you for not answering her." "You don't have to listen to that kind of talk," I said. "If adults behave like that in the hallway, that's their problem." On Thursday, we did a second volunteer hour. We added sorting returns and checking discs for scratches. Marlowe found a damaged disc and correctly filed the write-off list. Kai figured out the self-checkout machine and helped one boy run a book through the scanner. I watched from the side and stopped him when he tried to bypass the front desk. "I understand," he nodded and returned to the reader. After 5, Silas picked them up again. He asked if there were any complications. I told him about the stand and praised him for his attentiveness. He thanked me for the feedback and said that they would discuss the rules at home. At the end of the week, I called their mother. At first, I wanted to write, but it was better to hear her voice. "This is Miss Harris," I said. "I wanted to personally let you know that your children have done a great job volunteering. We are honoring your terms. If there is anything wrong, please let us know." "Thank you," she replied calmly. "It's important to me that they aren't photographed and that they aren't left unattended." "We have a staff member assigned to each volunteer," I said. "We don't take photos. If plans change, I'll let you know." "Agreed," she said. "And one more thing. If they start asking more often, please send them to me to coordinate the schedule." "Of course," I answered. The conversation was short and polite. I hung up and made a note in the log about the mother's approval. It protected everyone. On Saturday, we had STEM Saturday. Marlowe came as a participant. Kai had signed up in advance. We assembled simple mechanisms from plastic parts. Marlowe stayed a little away from the noisy kids, but helped those who were lagging behind. Kai was happy with every working part and called me to watch when his gear turned. Silas stood at the entrance and talked to other parents about the sports section schedule. He did not go into the hall unless necessary. After class, Marlowe came up to me. "I can help organize the next time if needed, not as a participant." "Okay," I said. "Then you'll need to come 15 minutes early and get a script and a signature on the mentor form from one of the parents." "I agree," she replied. Before leaving, Kai asked if I could hang his new drawing on the stand. I said yes and asked him to sign his name and age. He carefully wrote Kai 7. On Sunday, Silas and I met for a quick coffee. We discussed only organizational things, when it would be convenient for them to bring in volunteer forms, what days would work best. He said that he could see Marlowe becoming more confident around me, and that structure was important to Kai. "I don't want the library to be their home," I said. "It's a place for learning and rules. Home is yours." "I understand," he said. "It's important to me that you hold the border." By the end of the week, I had a simple picture. Kids can be in the library as volunteers and participants. The rules are clear. Parents are aware. There are no safety issues. I wrote down in the monthly plan, mentoring Marlowe Pilot. Kai update the dinosaur stand every 2 weeks. It fit into the work process and did not confuse the personal with the professional. We agreed to meet at the visitor center in Bandalera on Sunday morning. Separate cars, no long plans, everyone takes lunch with them. I arrived early, paid for parking, took a map of the trails. At the entrance, the ranger warned about the heat and advised not to delay the ascent to the caves. Silas pulled up promptly at 9. He was wearing sneakers, a light short-sleeved shirt, and a small backpack. I took water, a first aid kit, and a couple of candy bars, he said. The kids are at Mom's today, so I have free time until 2. Me too, I replied. Let's start with the main loop, and then we'll see. We walked along the path. There were few people, the voices of couples in the distance, and the occasional clicks of cameras could be heard. We walked at a moderate pace, not trying to show off our form. We were breathing normally. Thanks for picking a day, he said after about 10 minutes. I have a hard time with morning windows this week. I feel calmer this way, I replied. My head is fresh and light, and we know in advance when we're finishing. He nodded. At the foot of the stairs to the caves we stopped. I looked up. There was almost no line. Shall we go up? I asked. Yes, he said, but don't rush. My knee sometimes makes itself felt after last summer. The stairs were sturdy. I went first, holding on to the handrails. Silas went one step lower. At the top, we paused briefly and entered a small cavity in the rock. It was cool inside. On the wall was a plaque with an explanation of the settlements and dates. I'm always amazed at how people organize their lives without unnecessary things, he said. I often see the opposite at work. It's the same in the library, I replied. If you don't keep an eye on it, it all gets cluttered. We now have a rule: 10 minutes every week for extra stacks and lost things. We went down and came out onto the open part of the trail. The sun rose higher. I smeared my neck with cream, handed the tube to him. He refused, then took it and quickly applied it to his nose and cheekbones. I have a conversation, he said calmly. I want to say it here, where no one I know is around. That time in Denver, I found out from outside my cell. It was a couple of days after your night shift. I sat down at your laptop to send my resume. I opened my email and saw a draft of the letter. The first lines were visible. I read the whole text. I'm not proud that I finished it. I didn't look for it. I just read it, and then closed the lid and left. At the time, it seemed like the only thing I could do. Now I realize that I could have said something, but I didn't. I stopped at the side of the trail. 2 tourists passed by. We let them pass. I looked at him. Thank you for being so direct, I replied. I thought the camera was giving the signal. I didn't know about the draft. And yes, it was my letter. I'm not making excuses. I chose this step. You have the right to leave. I'm not saying this to bring up an old quarrel, he said. I want there to be nothing unsaid between us now. It's important to me that there are no secrets in the current topic. If we continue, then without things that will later come up. But I didn't tell you. I agree, I said. For my part, I'll add, if you feel like you're starting to close in, just say so, even if the reason sounds stupid. Silence is a trigger for me. I can cope, but it's better not to test my strength. Got it, he said. My trigger is unpredictability, abrupt changes to plans without explanation. I get tired of that quickly. It's bad for the kids too, so I'll warn you in advance if things are going to be moving. We went further. At the fork, we chose a shorter circle so as not to get too hot in the sun. Tell me more, he looked at me, about the boundaries. Last time we discussed the basics. I want to clarify the practice. Phones, text until 9 in the evening. Meetings, no more than twice a week, plus, without a plan, if possible. Home, no overnight stays for now. Children, no conversations with them without permission. Did I miss anything? I'll add 2 points, I said. Work. You come to the library as a reader or a parent, not as someone next to me. And secondly, about the ex. If you have a dispute about the schedule, I'm not a party. I don't comment or give advice. I agree, he replied. We stopped at a bench, drank some water. I took out a small container with nuts and dried fruits, then remembered that he had a ban on nuts at children's events. I asked, Can I have these? Yes, we can, he said. We don't have allergies. We just follow the rules of the playgrounds. We ate a handful each and sat in silence. A group of schoolchildren with a teacher passed by. The teacher asked them to give way to us. The children passed by calmly. I wanted to clarify one more thing, he said. If we ever decide to move to a more intimate relationship, it's important to me that we don't take away the supports. I have a support group on Sunday mornings. It's not negotiable or postponed. I talk about it up front so it doesn't look weird later. That's your plan, I said. I don't mind. We reached the observation deck. The ranger stood nearby, answering tourists' questions. We moved to the railing. I put my hand on the railing, he next to me. The skin slightly touched, but nothing more. I'll tell you more about the past, I began. You already know the name of the person with whom everything happened then. I have nothing to add. No contact with him all these years. And there will be none. If you were interested in this, here is the answer. Thank you, he said. The matter is closed. We returned to the visitor center at 11:30. We sat down at a table in the shade and got out sandwiches. He ate in silence, then said, when we broke up, I repeated one version of events for a long time. It was convenient. Now I try to put my life back together, not through slogans, but through a schedule and clear words. With you, it seems possible to me. Not because you will correct my mistakes, but because we both speak frankly. I see it that way too, I said. I'm not going to make up for the past. I'm going to be mature now. If we ever decide we're not comfortable together, we'll tell each other, no scenes. I agree, he said. We took the trash, went into the shop near the visitor center, bought a postcard each. I took the one with the picture of the path, he with the stairs. At the checkout, we each paid for ourselves. I still have some shopping planned at the hardware store, I said at the cars. I need to get lamps for the reading room. And I'm on Canyon Road, he replied. The client is waiting for a lighting plan. Let's go. On Thursday, a short walk, 30 minutes, and that's it. It'll do, I said. 7:30 in the morning at the rail yard. I will, he said. We stood for a second. He adjusted the strap of my backpack so it wouldn't rub my shoulder. The movement was calm and appropriate. Thank you for today, he said. The conversation was necessary. Me too, I said. We got into our cars. I started the engine and looked in the mirror. He drove out first and turned onto the highway. I followed him, but at another traffic light I went right. I had my own business in the city. On Thursday, I slept through my alarm by 10 minutes. Silas texted me at 7:05, stuck at traffic lights. I'll be there at 7:40, not 7:30. Is that okay? I was already standing by the door in my sneakers. I texted, okay, I'll go around once, meet me at the train cars. We met without drama, walked briefly, and went our separate ways. The slight delay didn't become the topic of the day. I noted, he warned in advance, that's how it should be. The library's toner supply was disrupted in the morning. The supplier raised the price without notice. Eliza was nervous. The registrar will only print receipts until lunch. I called the manager, referred to the contract, and got the old price and urgent delivery. Jake was transferring some of the checkout to self-delivery at that time, so as not to create a queue. By midday, everything had stabilized. At 11, a text came from Silas. The contractor has rescheduled the meeting. Can I borrow the conference room for 20 minutes for a call? If it's busy, no problem. I replied, all rooms are reserved today. There's a common table in the reading room. He wrote, understood. I won't disturb you. No complaints. But an hour later, when we ran into each other at the entrance, he asked, could you hold a small window for me sometimes? I understand that the rules are general, I'm just asking. I can't, I said. The same conditions apply to everyone. It's safer for the team and for me. Accepted, he nodded. I asked so as not to have to guess. We parted. Everything seemed clear, but in the evening he called. I want to clarify the tone, he said. During the day, I heard harshness, as if I was asking for special conditions. I just wanted to understand the boundaries. I'm not offended, I'm just saying how it sounded. Thank you, I replied. I'm rereading it. My answer was short. I save words during work hours. In the future, I'll add a phrase about alternatives so as not to sound cutting. Excellent, he said. Then we consider the matter closed. The next day, another little thing came up. Kai sent word through the teacher that he wanted another hour of volunteering on Thursday. On Thursday, I was leaving for a meeting at the mayor's office and couldn't assign it to anyone on the payroll. I wrote to both parents that it was impossible that day and suggested Friday. Half an hour later, Silas called. I already promised him Thursday. I didn't have time to read your letter before the teacher called. My mistake. Let's move it to Friday. Thank you, I said. I don't want the child to be left unattended. Friday at 4 p.m. will do. It will do, he confirmed. I'll tell him myself. On Friday, Kai arrived on time, made a stand, new books about animals, and was proud of the result. As he left, he said, "It was a shame on Thursday, but Dad explained why. Now it's clear." Everything went smoothly with Marlo. She took on the role of assistant at STEM hour on Saturday, arrived 15 minutes early, read the script, helped the younger ones assemble the mechanisms. After the lesson, she came up to me. "If I'm wrong, tell me right away. I won't be offended." "I'll tell you," I answered. Everything was clear today. On Monday, I submitted an application to the city to replace the lamps in the reading room. In response, I received a standard refusal, not a priority. I wrote a justification and attached a photo of the dark areas. While I was waiting for an answer, Silas sent a letter with an attachment. There is a simple diagram of the placement of lamps. No brands, only illumination levels. Might be useful. I forwarded the diagram to the city with the note, example. I did not invite him to work. It would have been unnecessary. 2 days later, consent came. They will install 3 additional panels for us. On Tuesday, I picked up my new glasses. The doctor recommended progressive lenses. At first, my head was a little dizzy, then I got used to it. I came to coffee in my new glasses. Silas noted, "Are you comfortable?" "That's better," I said. "The print and screen are visible without changing the pair. I'll leave the old ones for reading on the couch." "I have glasses for work too," he admitted. "I've been training not to lose them." The kids laugh that I can finally see the fine print on the instructions. We laughed. It was a simple admission of age without pathos. On Thursday evening, I went to the farmer's market. I bought tomatoes, corn, green chilies. At the bread stand, we met a friend of Silas's from the bike club. She hugged him tightly, like an old friend, and turned to me. "Is this the same Ria? I've heard of you." It wasn't meant to be malicious, but it made me uncomfortable. Silas noted, "This is Ria Harris, the director of the city library. We've known each other for many years." "Nice to meet you," I said, and changed the conversation to bread and the market schedule. We said goodbye a couple of minutes later. Later, he wrote, "I see that it was awkward at the market. Next time I will introduce you without hints. It is important to me that you feel calm." I replied, "Yes, thank you." The situation was closed. On the weekend, he invited his parents to the yard to roast corn and vegetables. We agreed to have no guests, just us and the kids. I came with a salad and no dessert, so as not to argue with the sugar rules. Marlo helped in the kitchen. Kai ran around with a ball pump. At the table, the kids discussed a school project. No questions about who we are to each other. We looked at the schedule of their concert and swimming section. I offered to help print out posters for the school party. Silas said, "If it's within the framework of the library, yes. If not, no need." We decided that we would make regular black and white sheets on the school printer. There were still some minor rough spots. On Sunday, he was 15 minutes late for coffee and didn't write in advance. He came and apologized. I left the house, thought I had time, and then I got stuck at the garage. I should have written right away. "Yes," I said. I need the warning. I've arranged the route so that I can get back to the contractor in time for the call. Next time, just send a message. I'll make it a rule, he replied. On Monday, one of the library employees got his schedule mixed up and didn't show up for his shift at the front desk. Eliza couldn't close everything. I stood behind the counter for an hour. My head was buzzing in the evening. Silas sent me a short message. If you need dinner without cooking, I can bring soup from the diner. I'll leave it at the door. I thought about it and wrote, thanks. Leave it with security. I'll pick it up myself. He brought containers and didn't ring the intercom. I ate at home and wrote, it was handy. He replied, happy to help, no waiting. On Wednesday, at a meeting at the mayor's office, the issue of extending working hours on Saturdays was raised. I explained that this was possible provided that the staff was paid extra and the budget was revised. In the hallway, the same mother who asked about personal matters at school approached me. Now she thanked me for the program for the elderly and asked if there would be a series of lectures on digital security. We planned it together with its volunteers. I noted that people's attitudes change when they see stability. By the end of the week, Silas and I had accumulated a few minor agreements. A schedule at children, his meeting with a client, my shifts. We sat in the Iconic for 15 minutes and went through the list. So, he said, looking at his phone, Tuesday and Friday I have the kids. Thursday you have the mayor's office. Our no plan on Saturday morning if no one gets sick. Yes, I said. And one more thing. If one of us cancels, the other one doesn't look for a hidden meaning. It's just busy. Agree. We paid and went about our business. Inside, there was no excitement, but stability. No grand gestures. We had learned to discuss small things before they grew. On Saturday afternoon, I pulled up to his parents' house on Avenida de los Campos. There was a folding table in the yard, battery-powered lanterns hanging from the railing. Silas was cleaning the grill grates. The smell of corn and green chilies wafted from the kitchen. You're on time, he said. Will you help me set out the plates? I brought salad and ice, I answered. Where should I put it? On the far table, so that the children don't miss the drinks. Marlo was laying out hoops on the lawn. Kai was trying to screw new reflectors onto his bike. I said hello. Marlo nodded seriously. Dad said there will be a lot of people. We need to keep the dog away from the food. I'll make sure, I said. Before the guests arrived, Silas called me out onto the porch. I want to tell the children now, while it's quiet, he began, simply and directly, without promises. Do you mind? The decision is yours, I answered. I'll support you, but you'll do the talking. And let's do it without signs that will be hard to explain later. Keep your hands to yourself, no kissing. Stability is important to them. Agree. We called Marlo and Kai. We sat on the bottom step, so we were at their eye level. Silas spoke calmly. You've known Miss Harris for a long time. We've known each other for many years. Now we spend time together, go for coffee, walk, sometimes have dinner. We're not in a hurry, and we don't change your house rules. If you don't understand something, ask me. Questions? Kai raised his hand like in class. Does that mean that if I have section on Tuesdays, Miss Harris can still show me a book about new dinosaurs sometimes? He can, if it's in the library and according to the rules, Silas said. Marlo looked at us carefully. We have a concert at school soon, she said. If you both come, I'll be fine. But no posters or loud shouting. Agreed, I replied. I'm a quiet spectator. One last thing, Silas added. We don't tell anyone personal details. If anyone asks, it's none of their business. If you feel uncomfortable, come to me. Marlo nodded. Kai asked for cookies, for good luck before the guests. Silas gave them out one each. That was the end of the conversation. The first to arrive were the neighbors on the left, an elderly couple. Then Silas's colleagues from the office and two guys from the bike club showed up. Salads, corn, vegetables appeared on the table. I turned off the music speaker, it was noisy without it. They put a bucket of ice in the corner so they wouldn't have to run to the kitchen. Housekeeping issues covered up the awkwardness. I sliced limes. He turned vegetables. A colleague in glasses introduced himself as Greer from the bureau. He asked about library lectures for adults and suggested that we talk about public space design someday. I said I was writing a schedule for the fall and that we could discuss the format without reference to our acquaintance. In the evening, Mrs. Segovia, the same curious neighbor, came. She took the plate and whispered, "I heard you have new plans. I hope the children won't get confused." Silas heard and calmly replied, "The children have a clear schedule. We adults agree on everything. Thank you for asking, but we are fine." She shrugged and walked away to the table with food. The question was closed without further discussion. The kids ran around the yard, swapped balls, and played hoops. Marlo came to me a couple of times to get a Band-Aid for her friends. Someone had rubbed their palm on the pavement. Kai took some of his friends' boys to look at his bike headlight. No one pulled me into conversations about who we are. To the neighbors, I was Ria from the library. That was enough. When it got dark, Silas called everyone to the table. He said briefly, "Thank you for coming. Take corn and vegetables, for the children first water, then everything else. Request, garbage in 2 different bags, we sort." For an hour, it was just a courtyard with food and conversation. Greer started talking to me about city budgets. I answered carefully, "What was disclosed in the reports, that's what I said." Tamsin arrived last, bringing a container of nut-free cookies. We exchanged glances. Everything was fine with me. By 9 o'clock, the guests were starting to leave. Tamsin and I collected the plates. Gil, the neighbor on the right, offered to help carry the table to the garage. Silas nodded. "Thank you." The yard was empty. It was just us and the kids. "Dessert?" Kai asked. "1 fruit drop each," said the father, "and then a shower." While they were eating candy on the porch, Silas and I stood at the sink. He washed, I dried. "How do you think the conversation went?" he asked quietly. "Exactly," I said. Marlo was calm. "Kai asks practical questions, that's a good sign. The main thing is that you took responsibility for your words." "I told their mother in advance," he added. "No details, just the fact that you and I are dating, and I will tell the children." She said she understood and asked to be kept informed if the format changed. "That's how it should be," I said. "And one more thing. Last time at the market, it was awkward because of the presentation. Today, everything is clear. We hold this line." "I'll keep that in mind," he said. "Thank you for coming and joining in the household." "It's fine. I work better when I have something to do." Marlo returned with an empty lollipop stick. "Dad, I have a rehearsal tomorrow until 4. Can we stop by the library for 20 minutes? I need to return a book and get a new one." "Can you do it yourself?" he asked. "We can," she said, looking at me. "If Miss Harris is there." "I'll be there until 5, I replied. "Come over and I'll show you the new shelf with popular science books for teenagers." "Okay," she nodded. Kai was already yawning. "I'll go to the shower first," he said. "I'm faster today." "Go ahead," said Silas. "Just don't keep pouring the water on for too long." The kids went inside. Silas and I carried the bags to the dumpster. The street was quiet. The neighbors turned out their lights. He leaned on the railing but didn't reach any closer. "I understand that these are not easy steps for you," he said. "If I've gone too far, tell me." "Not today," I said. "I don't want the kids to feel like they're being pulled in. As long as they see me in the library and in your yard every now and then, that's a good enough pace." "Then let's stick to it," he said. "Next week I have 2 busy meetings during the day. I'll write in advance. We'll leave our no plan for Saturday morning." "Fits." He took off his apron and hung it on a nail by the door. "I'll take the kids to school tomorrow morning," he said. "If anything changes in the schedule, I'll write. Thanks for the salad and the ice. The ice saved us." "You're welcome." We stood there for another minute. The words ran out, and that was okay. I took the container and the bag. "I'll go," I said. "It's late." Text me when you're home, he asked. Not as a control, just to be calm. Fine. I left through the gate. In the car, a text came from Tamsin. How did it go? I replied. Calm down. The children were told. No questions from the guests. She put an okay smiley. At home, I texted Silas, I'm here. He replied, thanks for the day. Good night. I put my phone on silent and turned off the lights. On Monday morning, a letter arrived from the mayor's office, a check of the quarterly attendance report. A discrepancy with the website data was found in the table. Eliza said that it could have been a glitch in importing from the booking system. On Wednesday, I was asked to come in for a short explanation. Almost immediately, the second one hit. That same day, a volunteer for the coding club for teenagers canceled. There were already 15 names on the schedule. It was too late to reschedule. Let's make a simple plan, I told the team. We'll set up 3 stations, basic tasks, poster printing, and tabletop puzzles. Jake, you lead the first, I'll lead the second, and Eliza will lead the third. We'll dampen the noise with a door and a reminder at the entrance. By evening, the hall was crowded. The parents occupied the corridor. One of them, an active commentator on a local public page, took out his phone and started filming. 2 hours later, he posted, "The library is a mess. The children are sitting on the floor. No one is responsible for the group." Dozens of comments gathered under the post. I watched and felt my throat tighten. We didn't abandon the children, but it didn't look ideal. Tamsin called. I saw it, she said. What are you planning? In half an hour, I will write an official response to the public. Apologies for the failure, facts, and measures. Tomorrow, a separate mailing to the parents of the group with a proposal for a repeat session and a limitation on the number of participants. Do so, she said, and sleep. I wrote briefly and without preamble. Today, our volunteer lost his temper. We held the lesson in a shortened format. We apologize. We are changing the rules. Maximum 10 teenagers, an additional employee, clear slots, and preliminary assignments. The comments were varied, but some parents thanked me for the direct answer. Silas came in on Tuesday morning. He looked stressed. I caught a mistake on my project, he said. The contractor ordered a window of the wrong size. I didn't notice it in the specification. We'll have to change it. I've already written to the client that it's our responsibility. What's the plan next? I asked. Greer will check the estimate. I'll review the schedule. The deadline will be delayed by a week. You said it straight. That's right, I said. If you need an external check of the drawings for one evening, ask your colleagues from the bureau. Don't close yourself off. I already asked, he nodded. And you? On Wednesday, the mayor's office. I'll tell you what happened and what we've already done. I also want to redesign the layout of the teen zone for club days. Can I get some advice on the table layout without brands and links? We only need the logic of movement. I'll make a sketch this evening, he said. I'll send it as an example without a signature. By lunchtime, I had sent a letter to the parents of the coding club, a schedule for 2 short sessions instead of 1, registration via a form, a limit of 10 places, a reserve list. 2 responded, thank you, that's better. 1 wrote, it should have been like this from the start. I didn't argue. In the evening, a sketch came from Silas. 3 zones, 2 buffers, the width of the passages, a place for parents to wait behind the door. I added my notes to the diagram and sent it to the mayor's office as an example of changing the process. I separately asked to add a rollout screen to block part of the view from the corridor. On Wednesday, I came to a committee meeting. One of the members referred to a public post. Yes, I said. We had a volunteer who quit, and we ran a simplified class. It wasn't up to standard. We've already reduced the size of the group, revised the layout, added a second staff member, and a separate waiting room for parents. Please give us a month to stabilize and keep funding for the program. They asked 3 follow-up questions. I answered with facts, numbers, names of people responsible, dates. The committee voted to continue on the condition that we report back in a month. I went outside and texted the team. We're on track. Tamsin sent a hooray and an emoji with a checklist. That same day, Silas wrote, "Customer accepted replacement plan. We'll cover the difference, schedule adjusted. Unpleasant, but all is calm." I replied, "Good news. Thanks for holding the line." On Thursday, we held a new format of coding club. 10 teenagers, 2 staff members, a closed door. Parents waited in the lobby with forms explaining the rules. Jake led the assignments, I monitored the pace. Less noise, kids focused. At the end, they gave a short survey. In the answers, they wrote, "Less crowd is better." On Friday, I received a letter from the author of the scandalous post. "I'm ready to see how it is now. I can come in for 5 minutes and write an update." I agreed to the conditions. No filming of faces, no entry into the hall. He came, stood by the window, saw the forms and the list. In the evening, he published briefly, "The library has restructured the format. It has become quieter and clearer." The comments were neutral, without shouting. At the same time, Silas had another small problem. The distributor delayed the delivery of the lamps. He warned the client and rescheduled the installation. We met for coffee. "I'm angry at myself for the window and the lights are all going off," he said. "I want to prove that I can keep projects clean." "Mistakes happen," I replied. "The next step is important. You didn't go into silence. You told the client and your colleagues. That's a whole other level." "And how are you?" he asked. "I'm holding on. I have a plan and a report date. I added Gilbert's shift at the teen zone on club days, and the volunteer schedule is now without single shifts." He nodded. We were silent for a moment. "I'd like to propose," he said. "If the Friends of the Library is collecting donations for equipment, I can send a contribution through the foundation, officially, without any connection to our communication." "That's possible," I said. "I'll send you a link to the fund. Just don't include the targeted one for our program. Let the money go according to the general rule." Agree. Saturday was team game night. I implemented a system. Max 20 participants, 2 staff members, a volunteer at the door, timers for the games. Marlowe helped out in the room as a mentor. Kai came for an hour, played, and left with his dad on time. At the end, Jake and I wrote up the results. Noise was controlled, no conflicts. On Sunday, we went to a little coffee shop on Circle Drive and sat at a table by the window. "This week was the first time I've normalized the phrase 'we need help,'" I said. "Before, I'd wait until the last minute." "Me too," he said. "Greer's got his hands on the drawings. I found it in myself to ask for a review before it went to print." "It seems we are doing what we talked about at the beginning," I said. "Not heroism, but processes." "I'm for it," he replied. "No grand gestures, just work and honest messages." We finished our coffee. He took the kids to their mom, I went for a run. In the evening, I laid out the plan for the month point by point, a report on the coding club, a lighting scheme, purchasing a screen, setting up a recording. At the bottom, I wrote myself a short note. If something goes wrong, say so right away. On Monday morning, an email came from City Hall. "We've accepted your changes. We'll report back in 4 weeks." I forwarded it to the team and hung a printout in the break room. Jake said, "It's easier to work when everything is within limits." Eliza smiled, "And fewer calls." I walked out into the room and looked at the teen area. The tables were set up according to a new layout. The aisles were clear. There was a sheet of paper with rules and contacts on the door. Not perfect, but manageable. I picked up the phone and texted Silas. It worked. "Thanks for the sketch." He replied, "I'm glad." "Me too." The window was redesigned. The deadline was met. I closed the chat. We had agreed in advance. A short trip to Ubiquia for 1 night, separate bedrooms, no waiting. The dates were agreed with the children's mother. The schedule was sent to both of her by email. I included the address of the cabin and the phone number of the local rental office, so it wouldn't seem like a secret. On Friday after work, we set off in one car. It's easier with parking and gas. He drives, I'm responsible for the map and messages to the library team. Outside of work hours, contact only for emergency matters. On the way, we grabbed coffee and Espanola. He got decaf, I got regular. We quickly agreed on music, a quiet playlist, no talk shows. We pulled up to a small casita near Rio Chama at 6. The key was in the combination box. The house was simple. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a table, a porch. No TV. In the table was a stack of maps of local trails, a few thin books, and a list of rules: trash, water, parking. He checked the smoke detector and the windows. I opened the cupboard with dishes, found pots and an old teapot that did not close tightly. Let's go grocery shopping at Bode's, he suggested. I'll get eggs and tortillas. What do you want? Vegetables and yogurt. And tea, if you have any. At the store, they filled the list. He also took a newspaper, a habit of looking at local ads. At the checkout, he said, "No alcohol, everything else is okay." The cashier nodded and scanned the purchases. When we got back, we quickly settled in. He peeled a green chili on the stove. I chopped tomatoes and onions. The kettle had a problem. The lid kept slipping and falling off. "It's broken," I said. "We'll boil water in a saucepan." "It'll do," he replied. "The main thing is not to get burned." We had dinner on the porch. Quiet. You can hear a car every 10 minutes and someone's radio in the distance. We talked about simple things, how his lamp deliveries are going, how our new club system has started working in the library. He told me that he's taking the kids to school conferences next week. I said that I'll take the evening shifts from the team on those days so as not to clash with meetings. "I have a question about the photo," he said. "Sometimes Marlo asks to take a picture and post it. I am against publications where we are together. We can agree, only children and nature on the internet, not us." "Yes," I said, "and no geolocation tags when they're nearby. It's safer." We walked to the water. The road was smooth. There were few people. He walked next to me, didn't take my hand, kept his distance. We stopped near the path. "You remember what you said about home as a safe place?" he began. "I think about that a lot. For me, it's routine. Who's responsible for what, where things are, how we alert each other. Not emotions first, but structure. I feel calmer this way too," I said. "If one day we share the household, then with a table of duties and with shifts, without heroism on one side. And without 'I'll do it myself,'" he added. "That didn't work well for me in the past." We returned to the house. He laid out thin sketch paper on the table and sketched out a plan for the ideal morning hour at home. Who cooks, who takes the kids out, who takes out the trash, where the backpacks are, where the keys are. I added the item, one evening a week for everyone to do their own thing. He nodded, important. We spent the night in separate bedrooms. The doors were closed. Before going to bed, he knocked and asked if I should leave the light on in the hallway. I said, "No need." He said good night. That was enough. In the morning, he got up quietly and made eggs and tortillas. I laid out yogurt and fruit on the table. We ate slowly. He called the kids. A quick call, like he did on weekends. He asked Marlo about his music homework and reminded Kai about the library book. I listened and thought this was the right tone for me. No cooing, no commands. We headed to the trails at Ghost Ranch. We took the shortcut to get back by noon. I led the way, he followed. At the rest stop, he pulled out his notebook. "It's important for me to talk about money," he said. "I cover the expenses for the children and the house. If we go somewhere together, we split it in half. If the children come, all the general expenses for them are on me. Do you agree?" "Yes," I said. "And one more thing. I'm not taking money from you for the library, and I'm not asking you to pay for anything that concerns my work. If you make a contribution through the fund, do it without any connection to me." I already did that. He nodded. "I received a thank you letter from the foundation. You were not mentioned there." "Great. On the way back, he started talking about meeting his ex-wife. In a week, we need to agree on the autumn holidays. I will suggest an option. Thanksgiving Day is divided into two parts. Christmas is for her. New Year is for me. If we change it, I will warn you in advance. It is important for you to know this so that it does not interfere with your plans. Thank you, I said. My parents are coming in November for a couple of days. If the kids happen to be there on those dates, I don't mind crossing paths. But no formal introductions. Just have some tea if that works out. Okay, he replied. We returned to the house by midday. He sat down with his laptop for 10 minutes. He needed to answer a client about a delivery. I looked at the time and opened my notebook. I made a to-do list for Monday, a letter to the mayor's office about the screen, a meeting with a group of elderly people, checking the volunteer schedule. We worked side by side, each with his own task. Neither tried to distract the other. After dinner, we found a set of board games in a drawer. We played 2 short games. He offered a third. I declined. I want to walk again. He did not insist. We reached the water again. This time he took my hand. I did not flinch. It was appropriate. On the way back, he let go of my hand at the porch, not making an event out of this gesture. In the evening, he began to talk about what would happen next. I'm comfortable slowly reinforcing the domestic stuff, he said. Not sleeping together often, but trying sometimes when it makes sense and when there are no kids. But only if you want to. I'm willing to try, I replied, with the proviso that if one of us feels it's better to separate today, we talk about it and don't look for hidden meanings. Agreed. At night, we stayed in one bedroom. Without haste and without unnecessary words, I closed the door. There is no need to describe anything else. In the morning, he was already packing his things and checking that no trash had been left behind. I went through the cupboards, making sure that the tea and chargers had been taken. We handed the key to the garage and headed back. In Espanola, we stopped for coffee and oatmeal cookies. He asked, "How do you feel after this trip?" "Take it easy," I said. "No swings. It was good to see how we behave outside the city. It suits me." "Me too," he said. "The plans for the near future are a school concert, your presentation to the city council, and my installation of lamps. No heroics." "And no photos online," I reminded. "And without a photo," he confirmed. By 3, we were in Santa Fe. He dropped me off at my house and wrote later, "Thanks for the weekend. A vacation without any noisy plans is just what I need." I replied, "Agreed. Normal schedule during the week." I had prepared a short presentation for the city council meeting. Attendance figures, a new scheme for teen clubs, a request for an hour longer on Saturdays with a staff bonus. The hallway was busy. Questions about parks, roadworks, complaints about the lighting in the alleys. Tamsin brought the printouts and sat in the front row. My presentation went smoothly. I showed slides, explained why exactly 1 hour on Saturdays gives an effect. Young families have time after sections, the elderly come before closing. The commission asked questions about the budget. I answered briefly. Then one of the residents raised his hand. It was a man from the same public where our coding club had recently been discussed. He stood up, looked into the room and said, "I have a question about a conflict of interest. The library director is meeting with an architect who is advising the city on public lighting. How will you avoid influencing decisions and purchases?" The hall became noisy. I took the microphone. "Thank you for the question. I will answer. The library does not have, nor does it plan to have, any contracts with Silas Merritt's firm. Our purchases are made through an open competition through the city's purchasing department. I officially declared my personal status to the clerk the day Mr. Merritt and I began dating. If the agenda includes a question about where he or his firm is involved, I do not comment and leave the room. There are no such items on the agenda today." The commission chairman added, "I confirm. The declaration has been received. The procedures are clear. Let's stick to the topic of the library budget." The man shrugged and sat down. I took a breath and continued with my answers to the point. At the end of the meeting, they voted to conditionally approve the extension of Saturday hours for 3 months with a report. I thanked him and went out into the corridor. Silas's ex-wife caught up with me at the stairs. "I saw it brought up," she said calmly. "It was a professional response. Thank you for maintaining boundaries." "Thank you for telling me," I replied. "It's easier for all of us when the rules are out in the open." Outside, on the steps, stood a group of people from the cycling club. Silas stood a little to the side, listening to a discussion about lighting an alley in their neighborhood. He nodded to me, but did not approach. It was the right thing to do. In the evening, he wrote, "I heard about the issue at the council. You coped with it. If necessary, I can skip meetings where the library is on the agenda." I replied, "No need to change your participation. I have a procedure. We just keep our distance in the hall." There was a school concert in 2 days. Marlo played the ukulele in a small ensemble. Kai helped with the stage. An hour before the start, we agreed on the seating. The children's parents sit in the center row. I sit on the right wing closer to the exit. If Marlo asks, I will come over after the performance, but no joint photos. The hall smelled of cardboard from the stage sets and floor polish. The school choir was rehearsing backstage. I gave a volunteer a box of programs and sent a photo of the seating arrangements to Eliza. She likes order even in places where I am not responsible. The hall was noisy, but not chaotic. Before the start, the school director came up to me. "Thank you for your clubs. The kids from our neighborhood have started going to the library more often." "I'm glad to hear it," I said. "If you need a traveling story about registering for the library for parents, we'll do it." The concert started on time. Marlo came out in the third number. She stood straight, looked at the conductor. She played cleanly, without unnecessary embellishments. In the middle of the number, she found with her eyes the place where her parents were sitting. I saw her nod briefly. After the number, she did not look back at the audience, did not look for us. It was an adult gesture. Kai was flashing around backstage with a box of duct tape. He looked out into the audience once, noticed me, and waved. I raised my hand and then lowered it, a sign of, "I see you, keep working." After the concert, we met in the hall. The ex-wife came first. "Thank you for sitting apart," she said. "The trick was important to Marlo today." "I understand," I replied. "She's great." Marlo came up to us with a tool in a case. "I played okay," she said. "It was worse at rehearsal." "It was smooth," Silas replied. "I'm proud of you." Kai jumped up. "Can I get some ice cream? There's a van at the entrance." The parents looked at each other. The ex-wife said, "Ice cream with Dad. I have a meeting with the parents' committee." "Ria, are you with us?" I looked at Marlo. "Another time," I said. "Today is your evening. I'll get ice cream myself on the way home." Marlo nodded. "Then I'll see you at the library," she said. "I have to return my book on astrophotography and get a new one on sound." "I'll be there," I replied. We parted at the door. Silas stayed with the kids by the van. I walked out to the parking lot and got in the car. My phone blinked. "Thanks for tonight," from Silas. I dialed. "Good concert. Call tonight when the kids are home." He called in the evening. "We're back," he said. The ice cream was sticky but happy. Marlo asked if she could help out next STEM Saturday with the sound section. I said, "It's up to you." "Let her come 15 minutes before the start," I said. "I'll give her the script. Just don't overload her with terminology. There will be younger people there." "I'll pass it on," he said. "And one more thing. Today's question at the council touched me, but in a good way. We don't control the range of what people think, but we control our actions." "That's right," I replied. "I'll add the library's conflict of interest procedures to the site section. Let them hang out in the open. Then there will be fewer questions next time." "That's a good idea," he said. On the weekend, we had a no-plan morning planned. We went to Iconic, got coffee to go, and walked to the plaza. That neighbor, Mrs. Segovia, was walking by. She waved her hand and said, "The concert was nice. The girl is holding herself confidently." "Thank you," he replied. "It's her job, not ours." She nodded and moved on. No hints, no questions. On Monday, I posted a section on the site describing the procedures. Short and to the point. Who makes the decision, how we announce connections, when the director leaves the discussion, where to find the minutes. I sent the link to the mayor's office and posted it on the main page. An email from the clerk arrived an hour later. "Thank you, this will reduce the number of calls." That same day, Silas held an open discussion about the concept of lighting the passageway near the school. He told me the time in advance and added, "I'm comfortable if you're not there, not because I'm hiding it, but so there are no unnecessary connections." I agreed. He later sent a photo of the board with notes: width of the sidewalk, height of the supports, temperature diagram. No people in the frame. That evening, Marlo came into the library with her ukulele case. I returned the book and asked if I could find something about sound. I gave her recording basics for teens and a slim book with practice problems. She asked if she could bring a small metronome to STEM Saturday. I said yes, but warned her that the volume was controlled. Kai brought a new drawing that day, not a dinosaur, but a killer whale. They hung it next to the ocean stand. He was happy that he had left the dinosaurs and said that now he had Sea Week. We started talking for no particular reason over breakfast at the Tune-Up Cafe. He was eating an omelet. I was eating avocado toast. There weren't many people around, and tourists were parking outside the window. "I'm thinking about formalizing our relationship," he said calmly. No show. The city clerk, 2 witnesses, then dinner at home. Ready to talk, if you don't mind. "I don't mind," I replied, "but we need to discuss money, legal matters, and how it will affect the kids and the schedule." "I agree," he nodded. "I see the advantages. They won't keep us in the corridor at the hospital. The insurance will be simplified. The children will understand the framework better. The disadvantages are only if we rush. I don't want to rush." "Then let's go step by step," I said. "Prenap, no offense. I feel calmer this way." "I wanted to suggest it myself," he replied. "Separate property remains separate. Current expenses are by agreement. We do not shift debts." We paid and headed to the cars. We agreed, first a conversation with the kids, then a meeting with a lawyer, then the county clerk, dates and witnesses. That evening we sat at his parents' kitchen table after the children had finished their homework. There was water and cookies on the table. Silas began. "Ria and I decided to apply for a license and sign with the clerk. No moving right now. Your life is not changing dramatically. If you have any questions, ask." Marlo asked first. "Does this mean we'll be spending the night at Ria's?" "No," I said. "Not yet. There will be a transition plan. We will discuss it together and in advance." "How does the schedule change with Mom?" she asked. "No way," he said. "We've got a week left. We'll agree on the holidays as before." Kai raised his hand. "Is it possible to officially establish that we have more board games in our house?" "We don't have to use papers," said the father. "This concerns the closet, not the court." "And the last names?" asked Kai. "Will we keep the same ones?" "I'll keep mine," I said. "You'll keep yours. No one is forcing it on anyone." Marlo nodded. "It is important to me that there are no surprises at school. If you decide to change something, tell me in advance." "Will say," he replied. We ended the conversation on the idea that the kids could come to the ceremony if they wanted, but there was no need to make a speech. That was fine with Marlo. Kai asked if he could wear a dinosaur tie. We said yes. The next day we met with a family lawyer. A small office, a glass partition, forms on the table. "What are the goals of the agreement?" the lawyer asked. "Separate what we came with," he said, "and determine how we pay for what we have in common." "And write down that the library and the company have no connection," I added. We went through the items. real estate, accounts, pension plans, medical decisions, business shares. The lawyer explained calmly, "We chose a simple formula, separate, joint according to the monthly budget 50/50ths, unplanned large expenses by agreement and in writing. In the end," she said, "you'll sign after 3 days to think about it. It's more reliable than right away." That suited us. He spoke to his ex-wife himself. After the call, he recounted. She said she understood. She asked to clearly state that her status in the children's lives does not change. I confirmed it. She also asked not to introduce new titles for the children. I agree. Me too, I said. No stepmothers, no second mothers. We're adults, we know how to avoid the unnecessary. I spoke with Tamsin in my apartment. She came with a notepad. "What do you want?" she asked. "I can be a witness, bring the pie, and make sure you have a hairpin and proper shoes." "A witness, yes," I said. "A pie, too. I have shoes." "Are we going to prepare a speech?" she asked. "No speeches," I answered. "In the clerk, everything is short. I don't want promises that sound nice and then interfere with life." "Then have a simple line ready in case they ask," Tamsin said. "Like, I promise to be straightforward and not disappear." That's how I wrote it down. We decided to get simple rings. We went to a local jeweler on Canyon Road. A small shop, glass display cases, a master in an apron. "We need 2 thin strips, no stones," Silas said, "no gloss." "Titanium or gold?" asked the master. "White gold for me," he said. "For Rhea, how convenient." "Also white gold," I said. "Narrow." We tried it on. The craftsman suggested a 2-word engraving. I asked for the date, no initials. Silas added, "To speak plainly." The craftsman said he would have it done by next week. At the county clerk's office, they filled out an application. Passports, fees, signatures. The woman behind the glass checked the names and asked if they needed to reserve a room with the judge. "It's needed," he said. "Next month, midweek, morning." 10:30 available, she replied. "We need 2 witnesses and their passports." "We have," I said. "Tamsin and Greer." We took the printout. It all looked like a normal municipal procedure. That suited me. In the evening, I wrote short vows in a notebook. No poetry. I promise to tell you in advance if something is wrong. I promise to take care of the children's time. I promise not to make secret decisions. I promise to share the housework. Silas brought his own. I promise not to go into silence. I promise to check the schedules and warn about changes. I promise to ask for help if I can't cope. We exchanged sheets of paper, corrected the wording. No forever, only what can be done every day. There was still the day of the ceremony to discuss. Silas suggested, after the clerk, lunch at the Plaza Cafe. In the evening, in my yard. Marlo will make a small bouquet of dried flowers. Kai will wear his tie. Guests will be minimal. The parents, you, me, the kids, Tamsin, Greer. No toasts for an hour. "Okay," I said. "I'll have the pecan pie. No music, just casual conversation." "And no publications," he added. "Photos only in the family chat, no social networks." Yes. A week before the date, we went through the list again. The lawyer sent the final version of the agreement. We signed and received copies. The rings were ready. The master gave me a package and a receipt. I checked the size, they fit well. Tamsin sent a photo of the cake and a message. "I'll be at the clerk at 10 o'clock. I'll get pens and tissues." The evening before the big day, we talked to the children. "Tomorrow is short," Silas said. "We go into the office, say our words, sign our names. You can stand next to us or sit on a chair. There are no tasks for you." "I want to hold the bouquet while you sign," Marlo said. "Yes, you can," I answered. "Can we all play Carcassonne at the end?" Kai asked. "You can," said the father. "After dinner." We went our separate ways. I ironed a simple light dress, put my documents and scarf in my bag. I left the sheet of paper with the vows on the nightstand. I read it again. Everything was clear. "Are you nervous?" he asked on the phone. "No," I said. "I know what we're doing and why. It's not about effect. It's about access to information, responsibility, and order." "I have the same list," he said. "I'll see you at the clerk's in the morning." Until tomorrow. In the morning, we met at the Santa Fe County Courthouse 10 minutes early. Tamsin held an envelope with documents. Greer carried a small paper bag with rings. Marlowe brought a bouquet of dried flowers. Kai showed up in a dinosaur tie and asked the guard if he could wear it in the courtroom. The guard said, "Yes, but no gum." The secretary led us into a small room. The robed judge greeted us and asked for the names of the witnesses. We placed our passports on the table. Silas took out the rings and checked the size. I took out a sheet of short vows. "Are you ready?" the judge asked. "Ready," we answered. We took turns speaking. I read aloud what we had discussed beforehand. I promise to speak up early if something is wrong. I promise not to disappear or drag out difficult conversations. I promise to respect the children's schedules and not disrupt their lives. I promise to share chores. I promise not to make secret decisions. He said his. I promise not to retreat into silence. I promise to warn about changes in the schedule. I promise to ask for help if I can't cope. I promise to respect your work and not put the work before us. The judge asked us to sign. Tamsin signed as a witness, Greer as a second. The judge smiled. "Congratulations. You are married." Marlowe handed me the bouquet and whispered, "Can I take a photo on my phone now and only in the family chat?" We took one on the stairs. Kai stood between us and straightened his tie. Tamsin wiped her eyes and said, "I was being as good as I said I would be, but it didn't quite work out." We laughed. We walked to the Plaza Cafe. We ordered a simple meal: omelet, toast, salad, 2 decafs for those driving. Tamsin raised her plastic cup. "I'm glad you're doing it fair and square. Here's to schedules and people who do what they say." Greer shook Silas's hand. "When it comes to library lighting, I'm not in the know," he gestured to me, indicating that he understood the limits. I replied, "If that happens, we'll go to open tender, as usual." After lunch, the kids went with Silas to get groceries. I went upstairs, changed, and brought back a pecan pie. In the evening, a table was set up in his parents' yard. Silas's parents, Tamsin, Greer, and 2 neighbors were there. No music or toasts for half an hour. Marlowe played a short piece on the ukulele and said, "That's all I have for today." Kai set up Carcassonne and made sure no one was hiding tiles. We played one game, and the kids won. 3 photos appeared in the family chat: a bouquet on the step, our table, and a close-up of Kai's tie. No more photos. By 9 o'clock, the guests had left. Silas and I finished washing the dishes. He put the plates out to dry. I put the disposable tablecloths in a bag. The children washed up. We went out onto the porch. "Do you have the strength to discuss everyday matters today?" he asked. "Briefly," I said. "Keys, 1 set for emergencies, access to the common area of the calendar, separate bedrooms, no change for now. In a month, we'll discuss Wednesday nights when the kids are with Mom." "Agreed," he nodded. "I'll ask our insurance agent to add you as an emergency contact. You send me your medical preferences. I'll put them in a file." "I'll send it. And one more thing. I'm putting you on the clerk's form as someone who can pick me up from the hospital if anything happens. This isn't romantic. It's order." "Order is good," he said. The kids came back to the porch. Kai showed the empty game box. "All the tiles are there," I checked. Marlowe said she had a rehearsal tomorrow and asked us not to change the plan. We promised. The next day, I went to work. The team congratulated me briefly. Eliza put a vase and a note on the table: "Happiness and peace." I thanked her and went to the teen zone. There were new panels hanging there. The light was distributed evenly. The guys came to the coding club according to a new scheme, and the noise was lower. A comment appeared on the site: "It has become more convenient to sign up." I replied, Thank you for the feedback, and closed the tab. In the evening, we met at the school. Silas had a meeting with the TA. I gave Marlo the book about sound and went back to the library. At the door, a woman from the neighborhood stopped me. I saw a section on conflicts of interest in the news. Finally, we're doing it smart. Thank you. We just made visible the rules that were already there, I replied. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.